so we now have another Terran versus Zerg, but this is going to be on a bit of a bigger map. So, being a map this large, I'm going to try to take advantage of this with using a bit more of a greedy build. This is going to be something that I wouldn't 100% recommend for you to do on ladder, largely due to the vulnerability that it will have to a lot of builds that you could do, but just want to show you a little bit what you can do, though, with early command center first builds. So let's get right into this. It's going to be on Star Station. This map is so super huge. So one of the big weaknesses, of course, of this is that in the ladder version, you don't know where your opponent spawns. So there's a lot of scouting to be done. And I think for lower level players, one of the best times to scout, if you ever want to go command center first, is to just send out the first SCV that builds the depot. So the Flash actually did this a lot when he started playing StarCraft 2, just so he could be able to scout everything. So like Flash, what we're going to do is send this SCV to each of the bases after it finishes building the supply depot. And we can still go for the command center of 14 supply. Doesn't hinder our build really at all. It's a tiny little bit of minerals that we don't get to mine because he's scouting earlier, but it guarantees that we're going to be safe against most any kind of early cheese or early pressure that we could see on a map like this when it does take so long to scout. So remember, I'm on 13 supply. I have one more extra SCV queued up, so basically, we're still going to go at 300 minerals, send an SCV down, and go to build this command center at 14 supply. So now we're just waiting there. Boom. 300 minerals. Going to send an SCV down to the natural. And look at that. Right as we reach the wall, we're at 400 minerals. So there, we're going to start the wall. You can position the wall a bit differently to allow a barracks to be placed a lot closer and make it a very tight wall. But for the purposes of this tutorial run, I don't want to do anything too complicated. Just showing you the way that you would normally do it. So if you can't build it there, you can always just throw it up here. It's going to give a bit more surface area for a drone to harass, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And now we start that barracks at 15 supply, and at 16 supply, we're going to get a gas. So we're going for a command center first into reactor Hellion play. Which is basically just going to allow us to be economic with the CC first, but also put on a bit of pressure with the Hellions and being able to scout and defend early Zergling aggression using Hellions as well. Now, continuing to produce SCVs, and once this geyser is done, we will add on 2 additional SCVs to mine from it. So this way, we can afford our factory at a good time. Now, his drone is poking, so what I'm going to do is use the T button, halt building, and then I'm going to queue it to build this barracks so that after it stops constructing it, it can go right back to it. Looks like he might get my SCV. No. Okay, so he's got my SCV kind of boxed in a weird spot. So what I'm going to do is just try to completely swing around and then just go home with it. So he is going to lose that drone if he comes inside of my main base. Ah! Alright. I apologize for that, but I do get to kill his drone.
Upgrade complete.
Alright, so I don't want to get too distracted by that, so I'm going to go build my factory now. You can build 2 Marines before you have enough gas to get a reactor, so you basically go for your command center, barracks, gas, 2 Marines, factory, and reactor. So my opponent has not opened up with gas. I'm going to look around one last time in his main base. He's building up a good number of drones, so nothing terribly scary. And I'm going to go build my reactor now, and I'm also going to move this command center down to the natural. So first things first, now that I'm moving down to take my expansion, I need to build my wall. So let's get that set up. We're going to start getting a bunker to defend that. And at this point, you can go for a couple of different options. You can get a really fast 3rd command center. You can get a really fast 2 barracks play to be able to put on a lot of aggression. Or you can just kind of play it out kind of normally. But I'm going to get a fast 3rd command center because this map is so large. And now that my wall is complete, I'm safe against anything running into my main base. I can raise the depot if necessary. Bunker is done, so... And I'm also going to throw down some depots in front of my barracks to keep anything from running in there. Now, barracks is going to go to build that tech lab. I'm going to start some Hellions, and, well, at this point, we're going to take our 2nd gas in our main base. And this is basically just going to allow us to get enough gas to go for upgrades, as well as stim pack. And keeping in mind, constantly building supply depots. So not only do we want to build supply depots, but we want to make supply depots that are useful in terms of where we position them. So being able to put them in a wall allows us to defend against early pressure, put on a little bit of aggression without being super vulnerable to counterattacks. And now that we have this second gas geyser, we're going to build 2 engineering bays, saturate this gas, and we have 16 workers here. So what we're going to do now is rally all of our worker production over towards the natural expansion. This way we can get optimal mining and income from that base. So Hellions come in. I see he actually has a pretty good number of drones. So what I'm going to do, run over to his natural. I want to make sure he isn't being too greedy. It does look like he already has a 3rd base. He's going to immediately throw some of these drones into being spine crawlers. I have no problem with this, so I'm just going to let these spine crawlers finish. He obviously does not want to build spine crawlers, so
Not enough minerals.
yeah, and I'm just going to actually be able to just kill the spine crawlers before they can finish, so that's a little bit silly. I only actually want to make 6 Hellions, though, so now that the Hellions are done, we're going to add on barracks, just like we did in the last game.
Not enough energy.
We're looking good in supply. I'm not worried about being supply blocked anytime soon. And now I'm just going to get a good position on that. So we still only started 2, so we need to start 2 more. And yeah, spine crawler's dead. And basically I'm just keeping him from mining out of this. So I'll be able to know if he goes for roaches or anything, because he'll probably build those to get rid of my Hellions. But it's also important that I finish my wall, just in case he goes for a big counterattack in response to my Hellions. So he has built some Zerglings. I'm just going to run up and catch these. Of course, Hellions move so much faster than Zerglings. He can't do anything without Zergling speed. So now I'm just doing a bit of fancy pants micro because I can, but alright, so it's important not to get too caught up in that. I want to make sure that I have everything else set up. Gonna get the saturation on this gas. Let's watch out for Mutalisks. Getting missile turrets. We are at that 9-minute mark. And yeah, so now we have enough SCVs to saturate our natural. Our 3rd command center is prepped and ready, so feeling pretty good right now. We're going to get combat shields. Okay, so it looks like our 1-1 is going to complete soon. It's time to get that armory up. And we're going to start our starport. Going to move out to take our 3rd base. And now we have a pretty solid setup here, so it's also important to try to deny creep spread. If you ever also don't know what to do with your Hellions, you can always just run up, try to snipe some creep tumors. Okay, so he is going for Mutalisk, so what I'm going to need to do is get a couple more missile turrets. I want to make sure that my production is protected. That's most important, almost more important than anything that you could do, really. So it looks like he could try to put on some pressure to my 3rd base. I am a little bit worried because my production hasn't had time to really kick in and reach fruition just yet, but
Base is under attack.
it's not the biggest deal.
Energy. Additional supply depots required.
Alright, so we managed to keep his Mutalisks away for now. I'm going to try to get my medevac production going, though, and, well, he did show that he is feeling a little bit brave, so things I need to worry about, Zergling counterattacks. I'm actually going to leave 4 Marines in this bunker just to make sure that he can't go for any kind of pressure. I also want to make sure I don't get supply blocked, so I might drop down a supply drop if I need to, but only if I absolutely need to. This way, I don't have to worry as much. So I'm a bit oversaturated. You can see 24 workers. Remember, you only want to have about 16, 20, so he is over here. He's putting a bit of harass onto this bunker, but thankfully I have Marines here. So while he's putting on this pressure, this opens up a big opportunity for me to put on counter pressure. So what I'm going to do is run some units around to the side and go for a drop play at the same time. So I'm going to continue to move some units over here. I need to get some missile turrets to protect this base, though. So he does have a pretty good amount of units coming over here. So his mutas are going to harass this base. Supply blocks are starting to actually really hurt me. So I'm going to try to focus on not getting hit by those as hard. Marine's able to push him away, but now my drop has hit his base. I'm going to drop inside of his base. So now I'm moving in here, and I'm also going to move in and flank him from the side. This is basically just tasking his multitasking, and this is a bit of an advanced maneuver. But now all those Mutalisks, one of the big things to note is if you're harassing your opponent, it is very difficult for them to harass you at the same time. This goes a bit outside the scope of a Bronze to Masters, I think. But you can just kind of see how this pans out in terms of putting on harass. So then he's just going to leave the game, and that's basically it. So in terms of like economic builds, you can still see though the important thing that matters is we did 3 different openers so far against Zerg today, and all of them lead into the same infrastructure: 2 tech labs, 3 reactors, fast upgrades. That's really all that counts against Zerg. Having upgrades at good timings are the key to success. Zerg players can generally overwhelm you in terms of how fast they build their economy, but if you can play greedy while putting on a bit of pressure, as you saw with those Hellions earlier, that gives you a great opportunity to break even or actually punish Zerg players for greediness. So that's just KD number 5 in this Bronze to Masters series. Yeah, a couple of things though to point out, of course. I know, look at that, we managed to hit silver. It's kind of like execution stuff, but execution also comes down a lot to building things when you need them. It's keeping an eye on your production, keeping an eye on your minerals, your supply, trying to constantly throw up supply depots while constantly building units. It's the most difficult part of StarCraft. I could tell you any strategy in the game, but if you can't get yourself to build workers and supply depots at the proper rate, you're never going to be able to get out of Bronze League. So I basically got just a very, very simple style. I didn't do any really crazy early pressure. The last game I ran Hellions in by, but you see mostly I just turtled until I had Sim and Medivacs, went for a push as I took my 3rd base, and was basically able to secure game-winning leads from those points onward. But yeah, so hopefully that was useful information. I'm just going to look at the chat, make sure no one has any questions.